Alright folks, welcome back. I'm taking a quick break from recording my gold stake runs so that I can share some of my playtesting feedback, some of my thoughts while playtesting the new gold stakes on the experimental beta patch. There's a lot of moving parts here, so let's start by talking about, what does it look like pre-patch, right? So before the experimental beta, we have the orange stake giving us increasing cost booster packs, and we have the gold stake giving us the -1 hand size. So the most obvious implications here with the -1 hand size at the highest level, that's going to make it harder for us to find the cards that we're looking for, harder for us to assemble reasonable poker hands. And so if I'm not able to assemble straights, if I'm not able to assemble full houses, then that's going to pull me away from those in the direction of lower ranking poker hands which are easier to draw, right? Or even high card doesn't care at all what cards are in your hand, you just play any card and then that works, right? At the same time, piling on top of this, the orange stake effect here of having no booster packs is relevant, right? If you don't have access to Arcana packs give you tarot cards give you the deck manipulation that enable you to play these other poker hands here, the suit changing cards to help you make flushes, death, strength, and hangman cards to help you make full houses. Without access to that deck manipulation, now it becomes much harder to assemble those hands, right? And once again, you're incentivized to play these poker hands where they don't care what cards are in your hand, they don't care what cards are in your deck. It doesn't matter what your deck looks like, you can consistently play pairs, even from the very beginning, right? At the same time, if we don't have access to the celestial packs giving us the planet cards giving us, the scaling, right? And so, if we look at something like, here, let's go to the collection. Pluto cards give us +1 molt and 10 chips. Mercury, 1 molt and 15 chips. If we compare Mercury to Jupiter here, so pairs to flushes have 2 molt instead of 1 molt, and that seems like just a 1 difference there, but if it's 2 instead of 1, that's plus 100%, right? That's 2 times. So flushes scoring 2 times as much as pairs. On top of that, flushes also scoring 5 cards instead of just 2 cards, and when you score more cards at a time, you potentially have more synergy with your jokers. You have a joker that gives you something for each face card that you play. You can play more face cards in a 5-card flush than you can in a pair, for example. Going even further here, Earth card, compared to Jupiter, now even more chips. And so, if I compare Pluto to Earth here, I've got twice the molt and I've got 2.5 times the chips. So, full house is worth 5 times as much as what would be a high card, sort of in theory there, right? And so, if you don't have the celestial packs, if you don't have the planet cards, then you're not really getting any benefit for playing these higher ranking hands. You might as well just be playing these lower ranking hands if you don't have any benefit if you're not getting the planet cards. And so, okay, this is what the current meta looks like, right? Is people winning with just pairs and high card, or they feel like that's the only thing that they can do, that's the only thing that it makes sense to do. But that's not an all the time thing. You can't just go into the first round and just start playing high card and start winning. You need to get the jokers, you need to get the game pieces that actually enable that to happen. And so, if you do want to try to win with just high card or pairs or even 2 pairs, you're looking for things like Mystic Summit, this generic plus molt to any hand, regardless of what hand you're playing, right? Or things like this, these are not compatible here, but something like a generic plus chips. I think high card especially, it struggles from not having that many chips, and so once you have there's a lot of ways to get molt, right? Like you could get Mystic Summit, you could get Misprint here, you can get Raised Fist, a lot of ways to get plus molt. The thing that's going to be harder to find is a source of chips, and once you have both, once you have a source of chips and a source of molt, now it no longer matters what poker hand you're playing. Now, since it doesn't matter what poker hand you're playing, you might as well just play high card. You might as well just play any card, right? The main thing that you're concerned about if you're playing high card or pair, you're concerned about, am I scoring enough in the end game? Am I growing? Am I scaling? Because as I pick up more and more planet cards, we saw that the planet scaling numbers are really low. And so, I could start off with a very powerful start with something like this with the half joker, and then maybe combine with the banner here. But then, my scoring output stays the same, but the scoring requirements keep going up. All of the anti-scaling keeps going up. And so I'm looking for something like Ride the Bus, plus molt every hand that you play. Supernova behaving somewhat similarly. Green Joker, similar also. Maybe I'm looking for a source of scaling chips as well. So like Stone Joker is a scaling chips, Castle as well, scaling chips. Flashcard, another scaling molt. So there's a lot of different options here, right? So, assuming that you're able to find those pieces, then you're able to win, okay? Now, with the new change, okay, we've thrown out the -1 hand size. We've thrown out the increasing cost booster packs. Those changes do not help pair or high card at all, right? Pair and high card already didn't care about those things. The thing that pairs and high card build cares about is getting the right jokers. And so now we have rental jokers and perishable jokers. So starting, with rental jokers here, what this means is in the early game, these are just blanks. In the early game, you just can't take these, right? You can't afford the $3 per round. And so, 1 in 3 jokers going to be rentals. A third of the time you're going to get a rental joker. So a third of the jokers in the shop are going to be blanks. It's going to be that much harder for you to find those generic sources of plus molt and plus chips. Okay, then on top of that, we have these perishable jokers. And so, after 5 rounds becoming debuffed, so, let's say after you get through however many shops and after you skip over all the rentals and you actually find something that could be useful, it is going to run out on you. Or, if we're talking about these scaling jokers, you're looking for, I need to have some kind of scaling joker for my build. If whatever scaling joker you find has a 1 in 3 chance of being perishable. If it's perishable, then it's useless to you, right? In the 5 rounds that it takes to build it up, then it's already gone. Then you have to throw it away and you have to spend money to replace it with something else. And so, I've seen people say sort of mixed things. So some people saying, oh, the new gold stake feels easier, way too easy. Some folks saying that the new gold stake feels harder, too much harder. Well, this is part of why. If the thing that you were comfortable doing, the thing that you were trained to do is play this pair and high card build, both of these things are affecting that greatly. Making it much harder for you to get the jokers that actually make that build viable. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's a good thing. I'm very happy for this change. Now, on the other end, okay, what poker hands are sort of getting the benefit, right? If pairs and high card are getting the nerf, then what other builds are getting the benefit? So now that we've unlocked the hand size, now that we've unlocked the booster packs, okay, we have flushes and full houses, benefiting from the Arcana packs. We have straights benefiting the most from the Celestial packs, because the Celestial packs give us the Saturn cards, and the Saturn cards by far have the best scaling. Even before the buff, so with the new patch, we have the buff is now 3 molt instead of 2 molt, but even pre-patch, plus 2 molt and plus 30 chips are both huge, right? That's comparable to, as strong as maybe some common jokers, almost, except it doesn't take up a joker slot, right? It's like a negative joker, a negative common joker, every Saturn card that you find. And so, okay, with all of those benefits, then of course, okay, those higher ranking poker hands are getting a buff. The question is like, how much of a buff? What does it feel like to actually play it? So, in the early game here, because we can rely on the higher base scoring of these poker hands, then having this more difficult access to jokers is not as big a deal, right? So that's going to feel a little bit easier. If we go to the scoring requirements here, in antes 2 through 5, all of these numbers are lowered from where they were before. So previously 1200, now 1000 in ante 2, previously 4000, now only 3000 in ante 3. and then ante 4 I think was 10,000, now 8,000 or something like that. So all of these scoring requirements are lower, meaning it requires less material in order to survive, right? It requires less jokers in order to survive. You're gonna have a harder time finding your jokers, but less jokers are required, so it's fine. It like comes out even, right? Then once we get out of this early game, once we get out of this early awkwardness here with the jokers, then after you've seen enough rounds, after you've seen enough shops, then you will eventually find a joker that doesn't have a sticker on it. You'll eventually find a non-perishable, non-rental joker, a clean joker. And then once you do, it just sticks with you forever, right? And so, once we get to the late game, now you have enough jokers that you've assembled. Also, if you pick up in the late game, some kind of rental joker, now you might have the money that you can actually afford the rental fee. And so if you see a rental, if you see something like this, rental brainstorm, of course I'm going to pick it up. Or maybe I even have enough money for both rental brainstorm and rental clown, I guess, or whatever. 2 rentals at a time you can probably afford in the late game. Or if you want in the late game, you don't have to have that many jokers anyway. If you just have more of the planet cards, if you have higher base scaling here. And so I think level 14 is quite unreasonable. Probably you're looking at closer to like level 8 to level 10 on average, whether you're doing straights or anything else. Depends on how aggressively you target the planet cards, and I personally target the planet cards very aggressively. I go after them even more so than jokers. Here's why. Here's the point. Once you have this high enough level here, whatever poker hand you're playing, once you have a high enough level, we've demonstrated you can win without jokers. You can win with only card enhancements and not necessarily a lot of card enhancements. So like with this here, maybe just 1 glass card and 1 steel card, or maybe like 2 glass cards if you want to one shot with a straight. Or maybe what you want to do is you can just play 2 hands. You can play 2 flushes instead of just 1 straight, or 2 full houses or something like that. Or here on the Verdant Leaf, we were able to beat this without selling any jokers. We did that. If you don't sell any jokers, you have the debuffs on your cards. So even without any card enhancements, then you can still win with, instead of no jokers, you can still win with few jokers, right? And so here we were able to win with just these 2 jokers here. So of course, times 3 from Cavendish is very big. And then of course, Brainstorm copying that times 3 for another times 3, that's very big combo there. But with just these 2 scoring jokers, or instead of these with just 2 glass cards, then you can win without any other jokers. And then so, for the purposes of like going for gold stickers, you could just jam in whatever you want here. So we were able to win with a clown and a gift card doing absolutely nothing for us, right? And so, basically what this means is in the end game, once you have your high enough level poker hand, then none of this stuff matters here. These joker effects don't matter anymore, as long as you're able to survive the early game. So this is what I want to see. Here's the change that I want in the world. What I want is in the end game here in ante 6 through ante 8, I want all of these numbers higher. I want in ante 8, I want the 180,000, I want that to be at least 250,000. I want the boss to be 500,000 points. I think we could probably go higher, but maybe for now we'll try it out. We'll try it out on 250,000, and then if it needs to go higher, we can make it higher. But the point is, at the highest level of difficulty, at the gold stakes, what I want is you should not be able to win without any card enhancements. You should have at least some card enhancements required. You should have at least some amount of X-Mult from your jokers required. You shouldn't be able to win without any X-Mult jokers at all. You should have, it should require at least 1, right? It should require a lot of different game elements all coming together. You shouldn't be able to go all in on just one game element and then ignore the rest, right? You shouldn't be able to just win without any jokers on the highest level of difficulty, in my opinion. So, that's my thoughts. My thoughts are, yeah, if you're used to playing pair and high card, it's going to feel harder for you to get the jokers that you want, and so it's going to be harder for you. I think, you know, what makes the higher ranking poker hands, you know, more viable for folks is having a good discard strategy. And if you don't have a good discard strategy, that's why the game feels that much harder for you. But, you know, with a good discard strategy, then those higher ranking poker hands are very powerful, very viable, perhaps too easy, scoring too much in the end game, in my opinion. And so I would like the end game to be made harder by increasing the scoring requirements. All right, we'll see. We'll see. We'll try it out. We'll try it out, you know, higher ante 8 here, and then check in later.